Hi, I'm Dawn from ParkinsonsandUs.com. Thank you for being here. Today we're going to make sauerkraut. Now there are a lot of different ways to make sauerkraut with all different kind of seasonings and spices, but personally I like it just plain, as simple as possible. So let's get started. So I already washed the cabbage and I peeled some of the outer leaves that are a little bit older, but I didn't throw them away because we're going to use these later. So the first thing you do is you core your cabbage. So we're going to do that now. Sharp knife. Be careful using this sharp knife. And then there's different ways of doing this, but this is the way I do it. I just cut it in quarters. I didn't really do this one evenly, but and then from there, this one doesn't have, I cut it unevenly, so this one doesn't really have a core, so I'm just gonna start slicing this up. And we just do thin slices. Now you could use a food processor with like a little shredder blade on it, but I don't know, there's something kind of calming and relaxing about doing it all by hand, so I like to do it this way. Sometimes I'll use a shredder, the food processor, but most of the time I just do it by hand. Be careful not to cut yourself. And you can do it as thin or as thick as you'd like. I like it on the thinner side, the little strips, so I kind of just take my time. Oop, small. Put this in this bucket. Now this one doesn't have much of a core either, so again, I'm just gonna slice it up. Okay, so now we have both cabbages shredded up and we have a lot in here. But trust me, when we massage it and kind of work it down, it's gonna get a lot smaller. So from there, then we're just gonna add our salt. And I know I said I like it plain, so you could actually just stop after you add salt, but I'm actually decided I'm gonna add some dill. Not a lot, but just a little bit of dill. So we are going to use 1/3 cup of salt. This recipe is so easy. The hardest part is shredding it. So 1/3 cup of salt. And then I'm gonna do about 1 tablespoon of dill. Again, you could just do it plain like this, or you could add other seasonings like garlic powder, onion, oregano, basil, whatever you wish, but I personally like it pretty simple. So 1 tablespoon. And then from there, this is the fun part. We literally just massage it down. And the more you work it, the softer the cabbage gets, and you'll start creating juices at the bottom. And then we'll just put it in the pot to ferment. This is where you really need strength. You work your arm muscles and your finger muscles. And I'm literally just picking it up and squeezing. Picking it up and squeezing. And you may have to take a break. This takes some time, so just kind of be patient. And I always say just kind of get into the zone. Just kind of relax and meditate while you're doing it. And just mixing up the seasoning, mixing up the salt. And this is slowly going to break down and get softer and softer. You know, the first time I made sauerkraut, the first few times, I didn't have that crock there, that fermented. You don't need that fermented crock. You can just use like large mason jars. That's what I did initially. But I just really enjoy fermenting foods, and so I decided to purchase a ferment crock, and I will put a link for where I got mine in the description below. Oh, I'm gonna take a break for a minute. And it is okay if you want to take a break. It actually, when it gets to kind of room temperature, it tends to soften even more. So I pulled this cabbage out of the fridge, so it's pretty cold. But you can just take a break if you need to rest your arms, and you can just let it sit for 5-10 minutes or so and go right back at it. So I'm gonna rest my arms. Okay, so we are almost done here. I don't know if you can see how much it's reduced. It's almost reduced in half. And I just keep going like this and squeezing. See all the juice? Lots of juice down there now. It just kind of, the more you kind of squeeze out the water and the combination of the salt, it just creates lots of nice juice. Okay, I think we're good. I think we're ready to put this in the pot. Let me just go wash my hands. So, this is my ferment pot, and super easy. But again, you can use mason jars. Here, I'll show you. If you have, you can buy a few of these. You can easily use these as well, okay, to get started with. And then if you like to ferment, you can purchase a pot. But you can always start out with just mason jars. So then all we're gonna do is put this in the pot. And then I will show you all the juice that we got down at the bottom once I get all of this in. See, lots of liquid, which is good. Woo. Now, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see all of that liquid in there? See all of the liquid? And that liquid is what we're going to pour in next. once we have everything in, we're gonna just mash it down. We wanna press it down nice and hard. And the idea is to get the sauerkraut or the cabbage underneath the water or the juice that you just poured in. And if you don't have enough juice, you can always add water. But the idea is that all the cabbage has to be under the water. That's really important to prevent mold while it's fermenting. You're perfectly fine if it's under the water. But yeah, you do want it under. And that's actually why we saved these cabbage leaves, and I'll show you in the next step. So I also have, let me go get my little tool I have. This came along with this, and it's really just to press, do the final press down. Just again, make sure everything is under the water, which it really is. This actually created a lot of liquid. The trick to getting a lot of liquid though is to just take your time massaging. Just keep massaging and massaging and squeezing, and eventually you'll just keep getting more and more water. So that's the trick. Don't be in a hurry with that step. Again, use it as a meditative process. All right, that looks pretty good. Very much under, which we like. And then to ensure that we're under, this is where I use these. I basically just kind of fold them up and stick them in there and push it down. Again, just to make sure everything's under the water. Do the other side. Push it down. I actually should have put these in first. I'm going to add a few bay leaves. Again, you don't have to, but I'm going to add a few. So let me take out one and put it in there. Okay, get one on the other side. There we go. It's looking pretty good. Okay, and then the final step is I have some weights. Let me get those. Again, these came with the crock, with the Ferment Crock, but you don't need these. These are just like glass heavyweights. You don't need these. If you use a mason jar, what I would recommend is just looking for some heavier rocks, just some like flatter, heavier rocks. You can put them in a little Ziploc bag and then stick them in there to kind of keep everything down. So these weights came with this crock, and so you just put it in, and this ensures that everything stays under the water. Okay, all right, and then I'm just gonna check one more time to make sure everything is down. Yep, everything looks really good, all under the water. Good. And then I'm gonna clear this out. This is like a little well right here on the sides. I don't know if you can see that. And I'm gonna fill this with water, and then when we put the top on, it kind of seals it shut. If you don't have this and you have a mason jar, that's fine. Just put your weights, put your rocks in a bag, stick everything on top, make sure the cabbage itself is underwater. The rocks don't have to be underwater, but make sure your cabbage, your sauerkraut is under the water, and then fill it up, get it all the way up to the top, and then just put your mason jar top on it and let it be. So let me clean this up. Let's wipe this down. And then I'm gonna go get some water to fill up this little well. Okay, so then I'm just gonna fill up this well. Doesn't take much. Yep, that's good. And then we're gonna put the top on. Okay, so we are done. That is all it takes to make sauerkraut. Super easy. This is the very basic recipe, so you can start with this, and then if you want to add different seasonings, you can even add like onions or carrots or celery or cucumbers. You can add anything you want, really, and just let it ferment. So we're gonna let this sit at room temperature for about 7 days. And then after 7 days or a week, we're gonna take it and put it into a dark place. I here can put it in our basement, but if you have a home that doesn't have a basement or where you live doesn't have a basement, you can just put it maybe in a dark closet, but you just want someplace dark and cool. So we put it out on the kitchen for a week, room temperature, and then after a week, put it down into a dark, cool place for 3 weeks. So it's gonna ferment for quite a long time, which is perfectly fine. The longer it actually sits, the better, stronger flavor you're gonna have. So just be patient with it. And I also like to put this ferment, or if you have your mason jars, put it in like a bucket, because sometimes it'll kind of ooze over and can kind of leak, I guess, which is perfectly normal, but just to protect whatever surface you're putting it on. So I have like a little rubber bucket. It's like a shallow rubber bucket that I put this in, and then I'll just let it sit for, like I said, a week at room temperature, and then someplace cool and dark for another 3 weeks. Okay, so it has now been 4 weeks since I made this sauerkraut. It has been sitting down in the basement, and I have periodically, like every 2 or 3 days, gone down and just kind of poured some water here in the rim to kind of keep that water seal. And I think it's ready to go. So we're gonna take it out and we're gonna put it in our mason jars and then put them in the fridge. So let's see how it goes. Woo-hoo-hoo. Oh, it looks good. Okay, I'm gonna get this, just to wipe down this water seal. Looks good, I can smell it. All right, so that's all cleaned up, and I'm gonna take out the glass weights. Remember, we put in the glass weights to kind of keep the sauerkraut down underneath the water. There's one. Okay, and then if you remember, we rolled up some cabbage leaves and we put them on the top of the cabbage of the kraut, just to again keep it all under the water. So I'm going to take that out. We'll just throw that away. There's one. And now we're just going to scoop it out and put it in our mason jars. Let's see how this goes. All right, so let me bring this up and you can see. There it is. Smells good. Ooh. Let me just stick it in this. Put it in the mason jar. It's kind of a messy job, but, and if you remember, we packed that cabbage down nice and tight. So now we gotta kind of dig at it to pull it up. See that? Oh, I wish you could smell this because it smells really good. Really, really good. I'm gonna make a mess here, so just bear with me. Sauerkraut is so healthy for your gut, for your digestive system. Not just sauerkraut, but any real fermented foods. It actually has good bacteria in it from the fermentation. And the good bacteria, when you consume it, it actually helps to kill off any bad bacteria in your digestive system. So it's really healthy for you. And it actually helps to produce and kind of synthesize nutrients, vitamins, and it reduces inflammation. So really important to eat fermented foods when you can. And you don't have to eat a lot of it. You only need like 1 or 2 tablespoons a day. I mean, of course you can eat more, but you don't need that much to work on a healthy gut. Okay, so I like to fill this up pretty high, just like when I do it in the crock. Kind of stick it down. Oh, really nice. I'm gonna do another one here. And we'll put a top on these and put them in the fridge. Now when you do put these in the containers, and your tops should be tightly sealed. You always want to make sure your fermented foods are tightly sealed up. Like if you're going to grab some sauerkraut for a meal, just make sure you put that top on tight again, because that's when it can kind of spoil quicker. And when your sauerkraut's in the fridge, it actually is still fermenting. It's just not fermenting as quickly as strong, but it is. It's kind of like when you put sourdough starter in the fridge. It's still thriving. It's still going, but just not as strong. It kind of slows the process down. I also don't know if I mentioned when we were making the sauerkraut, but you should really try to always use non-metallic material like bowls and spoons when you're making fermented foods. I'm not exactly sure of the science, but kind of reacts, the metal kind of reacts with the fermentation process. So you should, that's why I'm using a wooden spoon. And that's why when we were making the sauerkraut, I used a big plastic bucket. Okay, I'm gonna pour some of this in. See how I do? Get it? I'm gonna do the other one. On them. All right, I think I just have to taste it. I'm gonna taste just to see. It smells so good. I put, I don't know if you remember, but we put dill in there, and I can really smell the dill. Perfect. Then, again, I like to use plastic, not the metal. I don't like to use these for the sauerkraut. Again, because of what we talked about with the metal. So, I just put these tops on. And there we go. All right, we did it. We made sauerkraut. We have 2 large mason jars of basic, simple sauerkraut. I feel like I'm gonna be eating it for months, which I don't mind. I just wanted to show you a simple recipe. This is just a basic, simple recipe, but know that you can always add different vegetables. You can add things like carrots and onions. You can add like ginger and turmeric, that's always nice. But I just wanted to give you a simple recipe, and then you can kind of add on from there. So if you like this video, I would love it if you give it a thumbs up or comment below. And if you want to be part of the Parkinson's and Us community, I would love that too. It's a wonderful, supportive community where I provide nourishing recipes, joyful living tips for caregivers around the world. So until next time, bye for now.